What is a story? So recently I was writing an article for one business magazine on storytelling, business storytelling. I decided to, I've just finished my article and I thought let me add some images in it. So I went on Google and I typed story. So I found all these images, Chanda Mama and Machwara. I said, no, this is not the images I'm looking for. I'm talking about real life stories, adult stories, stories which we adults share. So I went on Google and I typed adult story. And when I submitted the slide to the organizer, they said, Praveen, any scope of hiding this slide? No, don't try to penetrate, please. So, what are stories? Are stories only for kids? What kind of stories I'm talking about? Am I talking about Harry Potter or Chanda Mama stories? Not at all. As a storyteller, I think there are only two types of stories. One, inside stories and outside stories. We have so many stories which are inside. We are too busy, we don't see only. We have so many stories and multiple. So I thought, let me go back on my memory lane, let me look inside and find out stories from my life from which we have learned something. What are stories? Stories are nothing but your struggle incidences. When you struggle, you learn something from that, and if you feel that this learning is worth sharing with the world, that's a story. You don't learn anything if you don't struggle. Life is cool, what you will learn from that? You will not change. You struggle only. You change. When you change, you learn. So I thought, which is that first story of my life, which is from which I have learned, which I failed. So I decided to go back on my memory lane, and I still remember I was in 9th standard. I was going for a 9th standard exam, and my mom said, Praveen, give your best, son. I said, yes, mom. And I gave my best, ladies and gentlemen. Twice that year. So I failed in 9th standard. Because my mama used to tell me that, Praveen, when you study, you will get a good girl, you will get a good job. She never told me that. But she never asked me whether you want a good job or good girl. I never wanted a good job and a good girl. And I failed and I decided to run away from my home. I belong to Nasik. So from Nasik, I came to Mumbai. I used to sleep on platform for 3 days. I ran only for 3 days. So I used to sleep on platforms, the other platform. And day 3, something happened. I was standing on the other station surrounded by thousands of people. And I decided to go home. Why? I still remember that moment. It was busy platform and I could see a fruity packet down. I was hungry, hardly eaten anything in last 3 days. And I decided to pick that fruity pocket. And I squeezed it until I get that last drop. But when I was taking that last drop, I thought, hey, why I'm feeling hollow? Why I'm feeling alone? And at that point, I learned the difference between staying lonely and feeling lonely. There's a difference between staying lonely and feeling lonely. I've seen people feeling lonely within the families also. And I said, no, I'm nothing without my family members, and I decided to go home. So if I meet a child and if I have to tell him that why you should love your parents, I don't tell love your parents, I just tell a story. Now you will say, Praveen, your childhood was like this, my childhood was very simple, there are no stories like this. You have stories. You have to look inside. So you have inside stories, lots of inside stories. There was a story where my dad, mom sitting in front of me, and my dad said, listen very carefully, we belong to a family where we have culture, don't even think to do an intercaste marriage. Even in a wildest dream, rest everything is okay, but no intercaste marriage. I still remember that day. And I asked me, why you are telling me all this wrong? It's too late. I was in 12th standard, by the way, that time. It's too late. Why are you telling me all this? Because I fall in love with a girl who was intercaste. And I asked my mama, tell me how to love someone by putting a caste filter here. What is the logic of marriage and caste? Now, if I meet people and if I help them to understand that why you should marry if you love each other, I don't tell them, I tell them a story. So there are so many stories you also have, I have. Only thing that I have decided to share that story. I don't hesitate to share that story. I don't hesitate that I failed in 9th standard. I don't hesitate to say that I've married an intercaste girl. I don't hesitate to say that my dad was a rickshaw driver. These are truths of my life. But if I've learned something from that, it's my responsibility to share with the world as a storyteller. That's my responsibility. Inside story. What are outside stories? Outside stories are stories which you observe. Now you might say that we all have eyes, so we observe. This observation has nothing to do with your eyes. I met this girl, I was doing a business storytelling workshop, and we were doing a simple activity where everyone has to come on the stage and tell one line, one phrase which represents you. And she came on the stage, 100% blind, and she said, I'm a good observer, sir. I said, what do you mean by that? You're 100% blind. So observation has nothing to do with your eyes. When you meet someone, the way that person speaks, the energy, or the thoughts which we share, or our perspective towards looking and thinking, nothing to do with your eyes. So second types of stories, what stories you collect from outside. So there are only two types of story, inside and outside.